Welcome to the Transform Your Wealth and Health podcast, where experts in wealth, health, and fitness help transform your life. Here's your host, Andy Arter.
Today's guest is a man of excellent taste. He's a fellow Spurs fan. It's property finance expert, Michael Primrose. Michael, how are we doing?
Very well, thank you, Andy. Thank you very much for having me on.
No, absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming over. I know you've had a bit of a journey, but it's all been worthwhile.
It's all been worth it to see the mighty Spurs this morning.
Exactly. And we had a good time down at the training grounds. We've been popping along to see the under-18 Tottenham players, as anoraks like us do, play against Arsenal, and we had a superb win with the goalkeeper saving 2 penalties. So what more could we ask for?
Exactly. Great match. Couldn't ask for much more.
Was it 3-2 in the end, wasn't it?
3-2 in the end,
You did miss a couple of goals, didn't you?
I did, yeah. the joys of taking phone calls during a football match.
Customers, who'd have them, eh? They're terrible people.
Tell me about it.
So, unfortunately, life revolves around customers.
It does.
Could
definitely.
be fortunately, actually, thinking about it. But tell us a little bit about your early times and your early life and how you got into the career that you're into now.
Yeah, so basically what happened, I've always been in property.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know where it stemmed from, because none of my family have ever been in property. None of them have ever really invested in property as a hobby or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my uncle was an accidental landlord, completely accidental.
Yeah, we've been one of those too. Yeah.
I think most people start off that way, don't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, I left school. I left school with the intention actually to go and be a forensic analysis in the police.
Wow.
That's what I wanted to go and study at university. That's what I had my whole life plan based on.
You was mapped out.
I was fully mapped out. I had a place at London Metropolitan University.
Wow. Yeah.
I was ready to go. I had all my bags packed, ready to leave.
Was it Quincy that you've seen on the telly or something like that?
I think I might be a bit young for Quincy.
Oh, okay, I'm showing my age, aren't I? Sorry.
So yeah, that literally had it all planned out. Bags packed, ready to go.
Yeah.
I actually got a phone call at the end of August from one of my old teachers, and basically what she said is, we've had this apprenticeship come up, and I studied law during my A levels.
Yep, me too. Badly, mind you, but
I did all right, to be fair.
You?
I did all right. And got this phone call. She said, "Oh, we've had this apprenticeship come up. It's at a local solicitor's." So I said, "Okay, that could be interesting." Went along, didn't really expect. I mean, this is at the end of August, so I was literally ready to. Everything was in place.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is I went along to the interview, actually ended up falling in love with it and thought, actually, this is what I want to go and do. So went in as an apprentice, actually started in family law. Did that for a little bit. It was too many divorces for my liking.
Sad times, was it?
Yeah, well, as an 18-year-old having to deal with court papers and things for divorces, it was... Yeah, a little bit too intense for my liking.
But you actually got married a little bit later on, so it couldn't have been that bad.
Well, exactly. Yeah, it didn't put me off marriage.
No, exactly right.
So yeah, then ended up in conveyancing. So that's how sort of the property bug began, I guess. Did that for a couple of years. Did pretty well out of that. Then moved into a estate agency. Did that for a little bit, sort of specialising in residential, a little bit commercial.
People still talk to you?
People still talk to me, even though I've been an estate agent.
Fair enough, then, that's fine.
And then went back into conveyancing again. Unfortunately, it was made redundant just as my wife became pregnant with our first child.
Right.
So I had to go home and explain I'd been made redundant. She was actually then made redundant shortly after that as well.
Oh my God.
I know. So we're both redundant with a baby on the way.
Yes.
So basically, I had to take the first job that I came across, and that happened to be at a commercial finance brokerage. And I remember in the interview, the MD said to me, "Do you want to be in finance?" And I turned to him and I said, "I don't think so." I'd always,
Has anyone ever explained interview technique to you?
Not very well, no.
Okay.
So, yeah, I said to him that finance isn't really something that I'd ever really been interested in. My perception at the age of 22 at the time was that finance was for stuffy old blokes in suits, and that was it. That's all it could ever be. So yeah, we got talking about it, and they were purely sort of business, finance, and sort of accountancy focused at that point. So I sort of joined as a BDM to help on that side. Then
what's a BDM?
So a business development manager. So
Right.
I was going to be out on the road, sort of helping people with business finance. First day, got in there and went, well, actually, why don't we do property instead? So they'd done a couple of property deals, but basically it was looking at, can we expand this and make it massive? So I was there for about 18 months, built up quite a good client base, and yeah, sort of got to the end of 18 months and thought, okay, I want to go into property full time. So I actually left there with the intention of going into property full time. It just so happened that actually just after I left, I got approached and with the sort of opportunity to set up a brokerage. So we decided to set up a brokerage. Unfortunately, recently, as most people have probably seen on social media, that didn't work out. The brokerage is still going. I just stepped back from it, basically for personal reasons, just decided to sort of step away. So yeah, that's very much still going. And yeah, so I now come to a path in my life where I've got sort of lots of different opportunities sat in front of me. Still very much viewed within the communities and things as the property finance guy, which is what the brand that I've now...
You're developing brand.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So I've now sort of started to build that brand up. So that's my main focus at the minute, is building that brand up. So yeah, looking to get into podcasts similar to yourself. You've been a big inspiration in that side of things.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, it's helped me to think that's a path I want to take. Also looking at writing a book, and yeah, just getting out on the road a bit more, getting out and about.
Dare I say, what's the book going to be about?
Well, it's going to to be finance related.
I thought it might be, yes.
Well, it's already mostly written.
Is it?
So it's actually probably about 90% done at this point. And it's all about how to use development finance basically creatively, and how, as a first-time developer or maybe an inexperienced property investor, how you can actually put yourself across to lenders as being experienced, and how you can actually raise that finance sort of moving forward. So it's almost like a bit of a dummy's guide to development finance.
Is it for beginners or intermediaries, or
it is mainly focused at beginners, because that's always been my main client base. And they're the people I enjoy helping the most, because if I can help someone who's inexperienced and moving into property, I mean, I've managed to help a dozen or so people now leave their job.
Right. Oh, that's brilliant.
By helping them to get the finance for projects.
The kind of stuff we try to help on this podcast. I mean, literally, we want people to be able to increase their wealth and improve their health. So if you've helped people leave their job, then that's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, it's definitely creating wealth. Definitely.
Yeah.
And that's the bit I love the most about being in property, is it's so easy to help other people become wealthy.
Yeah, as it's got that connotation of when you go to bed, you're still making money.
Exactly.
Sometimes, because I remember the bad old days back in the negative equity times, and as you went to bed in them days, you woke up and you'd lost money because it doesn't always run true. They talk about 18-year cycles and things like that, but of course there's the good times and the bad times within the 18-year cycles, and sometimes are better than others, of course. Yeah,
exactly. And with obviously Brexit looming, obviously we've seen some positive news, it would seem, the last sort of week or so. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what March brings. I don't think anybody can predict what it's going to do to the property market or the economy. I think lenders are preparing themselves. I think the only people really who it's had a negative effect on, to be fair, is the valuers, who have become even more cautious than they normally are, which is,
and they're pretty cautious at the best
exactly.
Times.
So it's a whole new level of cautiousness.
All right, okay. So what do the listeners need to know about basic finance?
Well, quite a lot, really. So realistically, I guess from my point of view, I don't really deal with the basic mortgages and things like that. So from my perspective, I deal with the people who've maybe had a buy-to-let, or have maybe dabbled in who are looking to sort of take it to that next step. So they might be looking at HMOs, bridging against land, or anything like that. I mean, the basics are, it comes down to one phrase, really. It's a phrase that a lot of people throw about, but if the deal is good enough, the money will come. And that's the basic principle to have in the back of your mind. If you can find a deal that stacks up, there is a way of financing it. Now, that obviously isn't definite. There's obviously underlying parts of that, if you've got bad credit and all sorts of other criminal convictions and things going on in the background, it can obviously have a negative effect. But I think the basic fundamental principle that people have to have in the back of their minds is there is finance available if the deal stacks up.
Okay, fair enough then. So you talking about your change of job?
Yes.
Your change of role. What's going to happen in the future? What have you got in mind?
For me, blimey, loads.
Really? Go for it. Tell us
So
more.
obviously the book I'm looking to release ASAP.
Yeah.
The brand will begin to build, I'm hoping, pretty massively next year.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lot of events lined up, a lot of talks lined up.
Right.
I'm looking to mix it up a bit because I've spent the last couple of years sort of helping people to understand what the products are that are out there. I think now it's time for me to start teaching people how they can use those products creatively.
Is it the sexy stuff? So
the sexy stuff, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've put the foundations in place.
Yes.
It's time to start laying some bricks.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
It's time for me to start building that brand of not only a guy who walks around and does death by PowerPoint. It's let's do some sexy stuff. And so that's the plan for me sort of moving forward. I being completely honest, I don't have a long-term vision at the minute. Because for me I want to keep it short-term, mainly because that just fits in with who I am. But the short term is build the brand. I'm building a property portfolio at the minute as well with a couple of JV partners.
What kind of property portfolio is it?
So at the minute I'm focusing purely on HMOs.
Right.
So
Close
I'm not
to home or
literally 20 minutes away from my house. So I'm very lucky that my goldmine area is literally a stone's throw away.
What area are we talking about, Michael? For those that don't know you,
I'll be as vague as possible.
Go on then.
East Lincolnshire. Yeah, there you go. It's in the east.
Well, no, we know it's Lincolnshire now. We can come and hunt you down. Don't worry.
That's it. I'll no doubt there'll be loads of people sniffing around now.
Yeah, probably will. But I'm sure you've got your plans for them.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there's. But no, that's sort of the plan moving forward.
Yeah.
So hopefully. We should have 3 bought and up and running.
Okay.
Well, 2 of which will be by the end of this year, and then the other one will be probably February time next year. So we'll have about 16 rooms up by that point, which will bring in enough cash flow for us to be sort of financially stable and not have to worry about sort of chasing business constantly. So
you can take on other projects knowing, safe in the knowledge that you've got some sort of income
that the bill's going to be paid.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're saying you're going to produce a book. What kind of a book? Is it like an EBook or is it going to be like a physical book? Or
well, at the minute it stands at a fair few thousand words. So at the minute it is it's going to be a literal paperback book.
Right, and someone's going to publish this as a published author for you, or how are you going to do it?
Fingers crossed. I haven't quite hit that bridge yet.
Right, okay. So you might be doing some self-publishing.
Yeah, well, it depends how good it is when I've finished it.
Exactly. Trial it on a few people. I run something past you earlier, didn't I? Something that I've been writing. So just muses from my brain, things that come out. And
yes, your brain dump that you
brain dump. That's the word. Yeah,
which was very good. So
thank you. Well, constantly things pop into your mind, and I just write them down in.
You've got to get them down, haven't you?
Get them down, haven't you? Really, at the end of the day, and then ultimately you can put all these bits together, and if you can work out a way of threading it all together, you've got a book, haven't you?
Yeah, eventually.
Eventually, could be at ages. I'm sure J.K. Rowling don't do it this way.
Doesn't do like that.
No, but yeah. So
so hopefully I'll get that finished, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, get it published, and then so that should hopefully be available during next year for people to. Well, hopefully purchase.
Good.
It won't be going out for free.
Okay. Well, you can't afford to publish it and
give it away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, tips and techniques for our listeners. What would you say if they're interested in property investing and then haven't quite got the money in place? What's the best ways to start off?
Yeah. So the first thing that I tell everyone is find the strategy that you want to focus on.
Right.
There's so much noise out in the market at the minute about let's do service accommodation, let's do HMOs, let's do rent to rent, let's do deal sourcing, whatever. I'd say if someone's starting out with no money, deal sourcing is always the way to go. You sell a couple of deals, make a couple of grand.
Right, so deal sourcing. So what are you talking about here when you say deal sourcing?
So what I'm talking about here is essentially playing the role of an agent, I guess, of an estate agent.
Yeah.
So you would find properties either through Rightmove or whatever you're doing. A lot of sources use Rightmove. They'll negotiate a lower price on it, and then they'll sell that on to someone else. So essentially take a fee for doing all the negotiating and everything else. A lot of the more successful sources actually go direct to the vendor. So they actually, there is no Rightmove, there's nothing like that. They are the only person selling that deal.
Yeah, and they help the client of theirs to move on in their life, as opposed to
exactly. They find out what those
house.
pressure points are, and they help them to move on and get sold, and and make a bit of cash, obviously, in the process. So I'd always say tips and tricks for moving forward for a first time investor is got to be to look at something like deal sourcing. Rent to rent as well is a very good strategy if you've got maybe a little bit of cash. Land flipping, that's another one. So using, I guess I would call it planning uplift. So this is essentially where you find someone with a plot of land. You could then crowdfund the costs involved of getting it to planning, and then actually sell it on once it had planning. So you're not actually taking the risk of building a scheme out. But that we're talking big profits potentially in deals like that. But obviously it's hard work to find the land in the first place. But that could potentially be another strategy moving forward as well. The other thing is to find sources with good deals to sell. So if a sourcer brings you a deal with maybe it's 20% below market value, as long as that is a true discount, you could potentially use bridging finance to borrow against that market value, which means your deposit would be a lot less than the usual 25%. So it just depends what money you've got knocking about, really. But I think if it's no money, deal sourcing. If it's a little bit of money, rent to rent. If it's maybe a little bit more than that, then getting into planning uplift and using crowdfunding for the costs. And then, if you've got maybe what you would deem to be a deposit on a house, maybe look at the bridging against market value.
Okay. So I think you've got quite a good positive mental attitude. Would you say that you've developed this, or is it just something that comes natural to you?
It's definitely developed. Well, I guess as we're being openly sharing here.
Go for it.
So I was always quite shy at school, and I was bullied quite severely at school. And it was just one of those things. You always find it in every school, don't you? So I left school with only really a couple of mates and being pretty shy. It was only really when I got into commercial finance that actually I started to open up. And that was because I took on more of a sales role. I was almost... It was very much chucked in at the deep end. Get on with it. Sort of sink or swim. Because in my previous roles with the conveyancing and everything like that, I hadn't needed to open up or anything like that, so I was still very shy. Again, I was sort of bullied through workplaces as well. I left a couple of places because of that. So commercial finance for me was actually a massive relief, because I found a niche where actually I got on with everyone. I was open, and it helped me to develop a personality which I hope people now sort of find me quite easy to deal with, and
I think so, yeah.
And hopefully find me to be quite a likeable person. But even at the start of the commercial finance, when I look back to 2.5, 3 years ago when I first got into this, I realised how different a person I actually was, and how shy, and I had a very, very negative mindset.
Well, we had a conversation probably about 18 months or so ago, didn't we?
We did, when I only just started.
Yeah, you just started. And I was trying to encourage you and giving you a few ideas and techniques, and you probably caught me on one of my better days, and and I was encouraging you to try and do some of the stuff that you're absolutely crushing at the moment. So
you're the man really who got me started on Facebook.
Really?
So if anyone's irritated by my Facebook, then they've got you to blame.
Just got to blame me, really, haven't they? I can take it.
But I remember we sat in Costa next to King's Cross, and we sat and had a really long discussion about how to move things forward. And I'd only just really moved into the industry, and then I remember we went for a pizza at that very small Italian across the road.
What's that?
That was opposite the cost.
That's right, yeah.
And I remember we went to that. Yeah, it was a bit of a dingy Italian that we went to, but it was nice nonetheless.
John Mann, he picks all these places.
Yeah, we'll blame him for that as well.
Blame him for that, yeah. So you've moved things on nicely. I mean, your presence on Facebook is a bit of a fresh air, really, because I mean, as a finance guy, as you said before, it's crusty old guys in grey suits, but all of a sudden it's becoming a little bit sort of friendly and sexy and I'm here to help type of stuff, isn't it?
And that's what the property finance guy brand. That's what I'm looking to create.
Yeah.
Because I'm now 24. Mm-hmm. I'm probably the youngest person in the industry at the minute. Mm-hmm. I've not really found anyone who's sort of younger than me in dealing with it. So for me, it's a massive opportunity because I've now got the opportunity to completely restructure the industry.
Yeah.
Because in 20, 30 years, I'm going to be the older generation of mortgage brokers, or commercial finance experts, whatever we're going to label me as. So I want that property finance the property finance guy brand to come in and show that commercial finance and mortgages, they're not boring, they're not dull, they can be exciting, they can be creative. So from my perspective, I see that as a huge, and that again has helped the mindset as well, because I can see the opportunity sort of moving forward to rebuild that entire industry.
Well, like you say, you're only 24, so you've got such a lot in front of you.
Yeah, definitely.
What's next? What's the next thing that you're going to do?
The next thing's got to be releasing the podcast.
Right.
That's got to be the next thing.
Tell me more about the podcast.
So like I said earlier, I mean, you're definitely the inspiration for me on this one. Because again, this was something we spoke about a while back.
Yeah.
And again, it's something that's not really. A couple of the finance guys are starting to release podcasts. I'd hoped to be the first one to do it, but things have just been too busy.
Well, that's good news at least. You don't want it to be so quiet that I can start a podcast.
So for me, the idea of the podcast is so that people can take finance knowledge with them wherever they go.
Yeah.
So I guess it's twofold. So the first reason is that I want people to understand more about what options are available for them out on the market. The number of people I speak to who don't realise how far they could actually take what equity they've got, how many projects they could actually be doing, what they can actually do. People could be so much further ahead if they just understood what the options are out there. So that's the first reason. The second reason is because it saves me time.
Yeah.
So
if many people in one sort of recording,
exactly,
can't you? Yeah.
So if I can talk that through, it means I don't have to go on the phone for sort of an hour at a time talking it through with someone. So it saves me sort of massive amounts of time.
Yeah, it's all good advertising as well, isn't it? And it's relatively cheap. I think you're thinking of going through Anchor, and that's free, isn't it? So,
yes. Yeah. may well end up doing it for free.
Free podcasting. What can you say?
Well, it depends how well it comes out.
Well, this is true.
You get what you pay for, don't you?
You've got to make it work, unfortunately. So, on the back of you saying that you've done a book, I think you're creating a book. You've actually created already an ebook, haven't you?
Yes. Which. There's bits have been released and people will have seen it all over Facebook, bits and pieces being released. So the ebook is essentially the A to Z of raising commercial finance.
Right.
So rather than releasing it as sort of one ebook, I'm actually releasing it fortnightly as sort of each letter. The idea being is because 26 letters over fortnightly bits gives me exactly 1 year of content.
Exactly, you've got some content over the whole year. Yeah, why not?
So at the end of the year, I mean, it will be released eventually as a full ebook. But yeah, I mean, basically that gives people a fortnightly nugget that they can read through. I mean, each post is pretty lengthy, so it gives people the opportunity to look through and just understand commercial finance a bit better.
Okay, so after a year we can have the whole ebook.
You can have the whole thing in one go,
and we can read it in one hit.
Rather than each Facebook post individually.
I think I'm going to go with the every 2 weeks. I think
it builds up that suspense while you're waiting for the next letter as well.
Wait for the next one, can you? Okay, we're getting towards the end of the podcast now. If you were starting again, what would you do differently?
I tell you what I'd do differently. I'd leave school at 16.
Right.
I wouldn't have done my A-levels.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being, that's not taking anything away from A-levels. It just didn't fit in with my grand plan. Because I'm sat on an A-level in law, English and history, and I'm in finance. It's like it just doesn't fit. So yeah, I would probably go back, leave school a bit sooner. I probably would have gotten into a lot of the no money down strategies to begin with. So I would have left school at 16, would have got into rent-to-rent deal sourcing.
Touch on that a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, for people that might like to try those kind of things.
Well, we've been through the deal sourcing. I mean, the rent-to-rent is essentially, I guess, to sort of put it in its simplest form, is essentially subletting. So you rent a property off of a landlord, and then you rent out the rooms individually in order to maximise cash flow. That's in its simplest form. And the reason I would have done that is because then at the age of 16 I would have had substantial cash flow, probably to get me started. And yeah, I probably would have gone from there. I'd have still done the brokering, because I've got a real passion for that. So I don't plan on ever sort of not doing that. So for me, that's it. Yeah, I definitely have started that sooner as well. Yeah, I would have just started sooner.
Yeah, okay. So, Michael, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best ways to get hold of you?
There's 3 ways. The first and most effective one is probably to give me a ring.
Right, okay.
All my details will be on the show notes, so people can pull them from there. Drop me an email or drop me a message on Facebook.
Okay.
If you type in the Property Finance Guy on Facebook, you'll find me, or Michael Primrose.
Okay, Michael, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks very much for coming along.
Thanks very much for having me.
No problem at all.
Cheers.
I hope this podcast gives you inspiration. And if you want to contact me, I'm Andy Arter, and it's transformyourwealthandhealth@gmail.com.